Hey, what's going on, Colts Nation? Welcome back to another one, guys. And we are only a few days away now from the 2025 NFL Draft. Your guys, of course, Derek and Cody, back with another one, guys. And we are here to answer your draft questions here ahead of the 2025 NFL Draft. So excited, man, to jump into this. We are so close to actually getting some answers, Derek, to a lot of lingering questions around the Indianapolis Colts. A lot of discourse, a lot of people talking about different stuff. So just very excited, man. All things considered here, guys. And Derek, how are you feeling, man, overall when it comes to everything surrounding the draft right now?
Well, I'll tell you what, I mean, it's gonna be really fun. And when you heard Ballard's talks about that first pick and about some of these positions, it really stirs up a lot of things, and you never know when it comes to this stuff. So that's what's exciting about it.
That is, yeah, it absolutely is. And I think we'll also kind of do a little bit of a recap today, Derek, as well, a little bit later for everybody in regards to what Chris Ballard had to say and everything like that. But yeah, guys, if you have any questions that you want us to answer here, be sure to drop those in the chat right now. And we have a couple people who have already submitted some questions ahead of time, so we can dive right into Truitt here, who says, Loveland, Taylor, or trade back for more picks. Ballard said there's a lot of holes to fill. So, Derek, that is a good question. Do you go Colston Loveland? Do you go Mason Taylor? I mean, I know Mason Taylor is being regarded more as a second-round pick, but what is the move here, Derek? Say Tyler Warren, for this example, isn't there. What do you do here if you're Chris Ballard? Do you go for Colston Loveland? Do you go trade back and potentially still have the option for Colston Loveland and or Mason Taylor? What do you do? Where do you stand when it comes to staying put, trading up, or trading back?
Yeah, for me specifically, I would probably go with going with Colston Loveland in that regard. But again, Ballard said I don't that their board on the tight ends is completely different to what everyone in the national media seems to think about it. Right. So that definitely leaves for a lot of craziness. And I mean, I'll be completely honest, it could be a situation where, he's just trying to blow smoke up everyone's butt just because he's trying to get everybody to think that the Colts aren't thinking about what they're thinking about. So that could very well be in the cards for Ballard. Who knows what's going to be? But yeah, I'm taking either Loveland there or, there could be a couple other options. It could be linebacker. It could be a couple other things, or like you said, could potentially trade down. Could trade down if a guy's not there for them.
I was actually listening to Todd McShay. I like to listen to him sometimes on what he's hearing, and he threw out the idea that there might be, how you talk about like the Jets. A lot of people have said like Armand Membu or Tyler Warren and a couple of those other teams. He said, like, don't be surprised if some of these teams that we think we know what's going to happen completely go like a different way. Like more edge guys go earlier than we think are going to go, So I would just say that's also a thing. I think that's also could be in the cards, knowing Chris Ballard. He was obviously asked today about defensive line edge. He said, you're always looking, right? You're always needing those guys. So it would make some sense there. So there's a lot of ways the Colts could go here. So, all right, let's continue on now with Brad. He says maybe trade back with the Steelers to get their QB, pick up an extra third. I mean, that's a possibility, Derek. I am so curious. That is like the one prospect I'm so curious to see what happens with is that Shedeur Sanders domino. Like, where is that going to fall? Could Shedeur Sanders potentially fall out of the first round? Like, I know that might sound a little crazy. I don't know, Derek. Who knows what's going to happen? Like we had 5-6 quarterbacks go in the first round last year. Like, what if there's only one this year? Like, it's just crazy, the NFL draft, right? Because even in 2022, we thought, oh, surely there's going to be a team or two that's going to pick a quarterback earlier. And really, I think the Steelers were the only one that bit, and everybody else waited until, day 2 to go get a quarterback because they just didn't love the prospects there. And Obviously, we know how that panned out. So could that be a scenario there, Derek, with that? But going back to Brad's question here, would that make some sense if Indianapolis went back? I believe the Pittsburgh has pick 21. So would that make some sense there, Derek, for the Indianapolis Colts to trade back, a little bit further, get maybe another third-round pick or whatever it would, cost them for the Steelers to trade up there? Would that make some sense to you? Would you want to go back that far if you're the Colts, right? Because, ideally, Derek, you'd still be ahead of the Chargers if, say, you wanted a Colston Loveland, but also the Chargers could trade up. So you just don't know. There's a lot of things that could happen, or there's some other teams ahead, of pick 21 that could take a tight end. So where do you kind of sit in regards to this idea Brad throws out here?
Yeah, I will say this, it's another one of those things, Cody. We always say it, right? Like, trade back, just trade back, just trade back. But you have to find a team that's willing to trade up to do that in the first place, right? It's not just trading back. That's not that simple. Sure, you could try to trade back, and sure, that there might be a team or two here that might do that, but very few. But in my personal opinion, Cody, there are only about maybe one or two teams in the grand scheme of from when the Colts pick at 14 to about 22. There's only about one or two teams that I think would actually realistically trade up that far for the Indianapolis Colts. Now, the Pittsburgh Steelers could very well be one of them because, they're the only team in that branch of teams that desperately needs a quarterback. That could very well be the situation that, the Steelers might do that. Now, the Steelers might not do that because they might just go with Jackson Dart at 21.
Yeah.
Because, nobody, because I don't think anyone from pick 15 to the Steelers pick is actually going to take Jackson Dart. And no teams behind the Pittsburgh Steelers really need a quarterback. So, I don't know what the likelihood of us trading back is. There are a few options, like I said, but you got to find a team that's willing to do it. And it seems kind of slim the further back you go.
Yeah. Well, also, Derek, who's to say that Shedeur won't fall to 21? Who knows at this point, right? Because New Orleans, from what Todd McShay was saying, it sounds like they may not even consider Shedeur there right at pick 9, which is kind of crazy. We'll see. Obviously, nobody fully knows. But what happens if he falls past the Saints at 9? You look at the other teams, obviously Chicago, San Francisco, Dallas, Miami. They all have quarterbacks. We don't think Indianapolis will take a quarterback at 14. Atlanta got their quarterback last year. Arizona has Kyler Murray. Obviously, Cincinnati and Seattle both have their guys that they just paid. And Tampa has their guy. Denver has their guy. So, literally, unless there's a team that comes ahead of them, who's to say that Shedeur wouldn't fall there, right? And so is Pittsburgh content to say, we're going to wait and bet that he's going to be there? Or, like you said, take the chance and go get a guy like Jackson Dart there, at pick 21. I could see that being a scenario there for Pittsburgh as well, because I feel like Shedeur's stock, for whatever reason, people have just been talking about him sliding. So, again, we'll have to see. There's a couple teams, I think, if they don't take him, he could really slide down the first round for sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. Well, guys, be sure to smash that like button, hit subscribe, turn on the notification bell, all that good stuff. Guys, we're going to be live streaming all 3 days of the NFL draft, so you absolutely want to be a part of that here. And Derek, just wanted to give a shout out. We have a new sponsor, guys, this week that I just want to shout out real quick before we continue on. BetterHelp. This show is sponsored by BetterHelp. So, Derek, it's kind of crazy because, for me personally, I am somebody who, I have had my bouts with mental health. I'm sure we both have struggled at times. I know we've had conversations about it, but I know for me personally, I've definitely struggled with that at times. And, it's crazy, man, because, when you look at trying to get help for different stuff, man. Traditional in-person therapy, it can be expensive, man. It can range anywhere from $100 to $250 per session, which if you put that in perspective over the course of multiple sessions, that can add up to a lot of money there. And, especially if you're on a budget, that can kind of be almost like impossible to maintain a regular schedule there. So with BetterHelp, though, I love it because you can save on average up to 50% per session, which is definitely awesome. And, I know for me going to therapy, in the times, especially like last year, was really struggling with some stuff, really needed to go see and talk to a licensed therapist. I know for me, it was really beneficial. And this is something that I'm personally really, really passionate about is, mental health is a big deal, man. It's a big deal. And, I would definitely recommend to everybody BetterHelp for sure. I've never personally used it myself, but I do know that my time in therapy, the sessions, the times I've talked to somebody who is a licensed person in that, it's definitely been very beneficial for me. So really just want to shout out BetterHelp for the sponsorship here. We greatly appreciate it here. And the awesome thing is, Derek, they have over 30,000 therapists that are able to help, different needs, different people, which is awesome. So they have definitely a lot of people out there, a lot of really good licensed people at their disposal, which is awesome. So shout out to BetterHelp. Really do appreciate it. BetterHelp is the world's largest online therapy program, having served over 5 million people globally. And man, I tell you, your well-being, it's worth it, man. So visit betterhelp.com/juice today. Get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/juice. So be sure to go check them out, guys. Shout out to BetterHelp. We really do appreciate it. All right. Continuing on, Derek, let's jump into Smokey Dabs. He says, "What's up, boys?" And he also says, tight end or linebacker with the first pick and why. Okay, so Derek, if you're Chris Ballard here, I think I know your answer, but say Jihad Campbell's here, tight ends are here. Where do you go?
So you said Jihad Campbell, and then who else?
So Jihad Campbell or a tight end. I mean, that's this question: tight end or linebacker with the first pick and why. You got to defend your selection here, okay?
Well, I would say tight end.
Okay.
Because especially if it's Tyler Warren. If it's Tyler Warren, that's a no-brainer for me. Now, as far as I'm a little bit more hesitant when it comes to Colston Loveland, but I do think that there are some linebackers in the second or third round that I really like. And I think that they could do some great things. Now, I may be more arrogant to the linebacker position than the tight end position just because I'm maybe not quite as into the tight end room past the Mason Taylors of the room or stuff like that. But I would probably go with the tight end. My only thing is, Jihad Campbell just had that surgery. True. I'm not 100% sure how I feel about it. Don't know if, I don't know if that's going to work, but sure feels like, Cody, that these are the two positions that are going to bounce back and forth between the Indianapolis Colts on round one of draft day.
Yeah, those are the big two I feel like people have been talking about. But I would agree with you in the fact that I believe Indianapolis has shown under Chris Ballard and will probably continue to show they know how to identify linebackers and develop linebackers. So, yeah, I would say linebacker a little bit later on, maybe day 2. I know we talked about round 2, a guy like Carson Schwessinger, or even round 3, a guy like Demetrius Knight, just to name a few. But there's a ton of other linebackers that would make some sense for Indianapolis. But regardless of that, Derek, they absolutely need a guy that's going to step in and compete with Jalen Carlisle, be that coverage linebacker there. Because, Jalen Carlisle, I don't know if you saw that, he had off-season surgery. So, Chris Ballard obviously believes in him and thinks the transition has gone well. But again, you need some more competition in that room. Even just from a depth standpoint, you don't have a ton of depth. So I think investing a potential top 50 pick would make some sense for the Indianapolis Colts here. So round 2 for me is kind of my sweet spot here, but do appreciate the question, Smokey Dabs. Just as good also in here. Jacob J-Man in here as well. Okay, Derek. So Daniel brings up your guy, Harold Fannin Jr. We haven't talked about him in a while. There seems to be very little talk of him. And is his stock dropping? And if so, why? What do you think?
Yeah, the stock certainly is dropping on Fannin. I know that a lot of people were concerned about his combine workout. And also for Fannin specifically, he is a guy with a very interesting skill set, maybe a little bit different skill set than some of these other guys that are on the boards. So, and of course, the whole, he comes from a small school, and that's the one of the bigger issues. The whole he can't block thing is just it's not true. He's actually, PFF had him as a better blocker than Tyler Warren this last year. Now, albeit it is what it is. He was playing against smaller guys. I get it, but he's not a bad blocker. Just ultimately, he's a guy that he's more of a bigger wide receiver rather than a bona fide tight end, which I think is what kind of sets some people off, but it is what it is. So yeah, I'm willing to understand that, his stock is dropping a little bit for a couple different reasons.
Absolutely. It's interesting, Derek, because, real quick, this is kind of a little bit of a tangent here, but when it comes to Colston Loveland, everybody's talking like he is so much smaller than Tyler Warren. Like they're like, he can't block. And I'm like, why couldn't he develop into a decent blocker? That's my biggest thing. I just have never understood that, because I'm like, realistically, he's what, 5-10 pounds lighter? He's the same height.
I'm gonna look at it and see.
He's 6'6", like
he's 6'6", and he's 248 pounds. That's what they had him at. Now, Tyler Warren is right at around that 260 mark.
Right. So, again, 10 pounds, give or take. But who's to say, I mean, he's 20 years old, who's to say he can't bulk up, right, and become that guy? I feel like people have just like almost said he's never going to be that guy. Like if you draft him, he can't develop into that. I'm like, well, why can't he?
My only major concern is just the ankle thing. But then again, like I think that but as long as the injuries aren't a nagging concern, then I don't really have much concerns about, Colston Loveland just becoming better. Like It's not that Loveland doesn't block well. I mean, he doesn't block as well as Warren. That's no doubt. Warren is a naturally gifted blocker, and he's so much better at it. But that doesn't mean that Loveland isn't a blocker.
He's not great right now, but like, what about next year? What if he goes in next offseason, puts on 5 to 10 pounds, and really can become that guy who's going to be only, 21, 22 years old? You know what I mean? Like, who's to say he's at his ceiling? I don't think he is as a blocker. So that's just a little bit of a tangent there, rabbit hole there. Anyway, okay, Jacob asks, okay, out of linebacker, cornerback, tight end, defensive end, and offensive line, which would actually be your least favorite pick for the Colts in the first round?
Probably cornerback, because I think that you could get corners. If you were wanting to go that early for a cornerback, then there are some other options in a few other different spots. But yeah, dude, you need a lot. I could see the need for linebacker in the first. I could see the need for the tight end in the first. As far as offensive line goes, I could see us doing that. Defensive end, I could see it. I don't think that we should, but I could see it. But as far as corner, like you have the people necessary to do that right now. And I just think if you were wanting to get a corner, you could get him outside of the first round rather than there.
The only thing I would say would be if Will Johnson's there and you believe he can be a number one outside true shutdown corner alongside Tavarius Ward for the next number of years. That would be the only way I'd be okay with taking a corner in round one. But say you take corner out of it, I'd probably go offensive line just because, not because it's not a need, but just because, similar to linebacker, you can find guys round 2, round 3, round 4 round 5. I mean, heck, you found Will Fries in round 7. So you've been proven to find quality guys a little bit later on outside of round 1. Nelson's the only guy you've taken. The only reason you took him was because he was a generational player. That's it. So you've been able to prove to develop guys, right? And even if it's a guy that doesn't necessarily start for you this year, I mean, heck, we saw, I do believe the Colts would have addressed like left tackle better in the 2022 offseason. I don't think the plan was for Bernard Ryman to start that year, right? So if you could get a guy like that maybe falls a little bit, like, and you're like, how the heck is he here at round 3 or whatever? And you can let him sit behind Braden Smith for a year and you can develop him, or heck, if he's going to compete for right guard, whatever you do here, Derek, you find a guy that you can develop a little bit that needs to get better. Maybe he needs to put on some weight, or whatever. I do think that would make some sense for the Colts to go a little bit later. Or heck, if there's a guy in round 2 that should have been a first-round pick, you take him, with pick 45. I'd be good with that too, right? A guy that can come in and plug and play at right guard if you view Gonsalves as your right tackle. So there's a ton of ways, and really the domino is how do the Colts view Gonsalves here. But yeah, I would say O-line would probably be my choice outside of corner for sure. So do appreciate the question, Jacob. Let's continue on. Okay. Not really familiar with any of the defensive line guys after round 1. Are there any later guys you could see being day 1 rotational pieces on the D-line? Ooh.
No. I mean, as far as D-line goes, like, and for defensive tackle, not even, like, I don't think there's any guys that we would get in the 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th round that would be immediate day 1 starters right now.
He's talking about rotational ones, not starters, day 1 rotational pieces is what Brad is asking here.
I mean, as far as defensive tackle goes, I mean, that's a given because you don't have anyone. So if you draft somebody, you're 100% going to be a day 1 player, rotational piece, because the Colts don't have any rotational pieces at the defensive tackle spot right now.
Yeah, I know some people have talked about Ananias Peoples out of Virginia Tech. That's a big one. CJ West out of Indiana. Those are some popular names there. I'm trying to see. Obviously, you have Ty Hamilton, who Derek, as well there. I'm trying to find any other guys that people have talked about, like Deion Walker, even out of Kentucky. Like, there's a lot of guys here. It's a very, very deep defensive interior class, and I think it would be foolish if the Colts didn't tap into that in some sort of capacity, especially considering the fact that it was awful outside of your 2 starters last year. Like, you need a legitimate rotational piece or 2 here in this draft. So yeah, I do think there are a few guys there, especially in the interior, that would make some sense for the Indianapolis Colts to go after. You could look at some other ones as well, but those were a couple guys that came to mind immediately that would probably be, what would you say? Probably round 3, round 4 type of guys for what I'm seeing here. So that's probably the sweet spot for me, Derek, is late day 2, early day 3 for that interior defensive line.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay. Chai T. Riches says, on the topic, assuming big opportunities on the table, how far are you both willing to see the Colts trade back? So kind of going back to our first question, what are you comfortable with, Derek, if you're Indianapolis to trade back to? What's like your limit of the pick?
As far as willing to trade back to, I'm willing to trade all the way back to 21 or 22. I'm willing to go that far back.
Chargers are 22, just for reference. So they probably wouldn't trade there because they'd go, what they're going to do.
Right.
So probably not the Chargers, but 21. Yeah, I think 21 is probably my limit too there, because you'd probably still, unless the team came in and swooped out Colston Loveland from under you, you'd probably still get the opportunity there to potentially draft him. So yeah, maybe, unless there's a team that just comes out of nowhere, Derek. That would make some sense too. So right. Yeah. Well, do appreciate it. All right. We taking Campbell. That's the vibes Ballard gave me. I actually didn't get those vibes. He raved about the Colts' past of drafting linebackers, Derek. I kind of felt like that was kind of him almost. He doesn't ever show his hand, but kind of saying, hey, we can find some guys a little bit later. That would make some sense. I don't know what you felt about that, but that's kind of what, where that went. And also with this one, with the board, doesn't look like a consensus. He said, I first thought Campbell. I personally thought Colston Loveland, or maybe like a random edge rusher that nobody's talking about. That was my first thought. But I don't know about you, Derek.
I haven't listened to any of it. So, it is what it is.
Okay. Just as good. Thoughts on Maxwell Hairston out of Kentucky? I think he's a good second-round option, but I haven't really heard that for Indy. Also like the new sponsor. That's awesome. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, Hairston out of Kentucky, that could be very interesting. Now, I mean, he could get taken before the Indianapolis Colts pick in the second round. So, I mean, it all depends on how the board falls.
Yeah, I mean, the zone coverage, I mean, he thrives in that zone coverage. He's got pretty good size from what I can tell. 6'1", 186 pounds. So he's a little bit smaller. I mean, he could definitely put on some weight for sure. But yeah, I don't know if he falls there. I would be all right with it. I mean, I know corner's not necessarily a need, but I mean, it depending who you talk to, some people say it's not, some people say it is, but all right. See, guys, we're only going to probably do this till about 4:30. We got some other stuff, unfortunately, we got to do. So apologize for that. But Derek, any other ones here? There's a lot of just comments. I'm trying to find any questions that people might have. Okay, here's one from Justin. I know we added secondary in free agency. However, could you see Ballard taking a safety like Starks or Eamon Warrior, or a corner like Will Johnson or Jahdae Barron at pick 14?
That's hard because, again, like it's not an immediate need, and that's the problem. Is we can't be in the business of getting these really good players that are not going to have a bigger impact right away. Like, I mean, I'd almost get the corner argument, but whatever safety you get is not going to start over Nick Cross and Cameron Bynum. And and to be completely honest with you, Cody, is there really a corner that I'm going to sit there and say at 14 we should get that it should be over Jalen Jones? I mean, I don't even know if Will Johnson deserves that. Barron, maybe, but like, I don't know. I don't know if somebody deserves to be like over Jones right now, because as far as I'm concerned, he's earned the number 2 outside corner spot at this moment. But I don't know. That's tough because I want to go defense in the first if we can, but as far as safety and corner, you adding Charvarius Ward and Cameron Bynum just kind of made that very difficult to do.
Yeah, I mean, it afforded you the flexibility to go do other things, which is good. But knowing Ballard, Derek, I'm just never going to fully rule it out. Knowing Chris Ballard and knowing his history of just taking players at positions we don't necessarily view as like top needs, I wouldn't be shocked. Okay, Colby says, what's a position you'd be surprised the Colts spend a first or third round pick on, but something that's realistic?
Probably running back.
Running back? Okay.
Yeah. I mean, I think that the earliest they would go is a third round for a running back, to be honest.
Yeah. Okay. I will go edge then. Yeah, I have to throw my edge position in there. I just got to do it, man. I got to do it. Nobody's talked about edge. I mean, some people have, but we kind of have our 3 we think, but I can see Ballard taking an edge and shaking things up a little bit. All right. Let's do one more, Derek, and then we'll wrap this up. I'll let you, if you want to pick one, whoever you want, I'll let you pick. So appreciate everybody. Sorry we didn't get to every single one, but we got a little bit of a tight schedule today to get to. We got to get another video actually recorded here right after this one, talking actually about the Chris Ballard, reviewing, I suppose, the Chris Ballard stuff. So, yeah, Derek, go ahead if you found one.
Let's see. Anything else?
I have one if you can't find anything.
Go ahead.
Also from Colby, he says, is there any player you think the Colts would be willing to move? Pierce is an interesting one to me. I'm not trading Pierce, to be honest with you.
There is absolutely no shot that Ballard moves Pierce.
I've seen people throw that out, but I'm like, why would you trade away like one of your few explosive players from last year? You know, like you're looking to add more explosion. Why would you trade away the most explosive player on your offense outside of Jonathan Taylor? That's my thoughts.
Yeah, there's no way that Ballard would ever get rid of Pierce. It's just not logical to think that at all.
I mean,
Pierce is the beneficial wide receiver that Ballard just loves. Like, I mean, the way he carries about himself, the work he puts in, what he provides for the offense. I mean, it's just it would be the most shocking thing in the world if Pierce were to ever get moved. Like, seriously, I'm at a point where I'd throw like our entire bank account on Pierce not getting traded. Like, that's just stupid.
I mean, he was the NFL yards per reception leader this year. So why would you throw that away? I mean, Derek, realistically, Alec Pierce is a couple big throws away from completely changing a game each week. Like, you throw it to him 2-3 times down the field, odds are he's going to come up with at least one or two of those. And if not, all three, especially in that Jacksonville game. I mean, Derek, he was seriously keeping you in that Jacksonville game down in Jacksonville. It was crazy. If your defense could stop anybody, you would have won that game. I mean, Alec Pierce was nuts. So, yeah, I have a hard time trading the most explosive player on the offense out as a receiver, especially when you're looking to add explosion and just what that gives you from an offensive standpoint. I'm keeping Alec Pierce 100% here. So, all right, well, cool. Well, appreciate you guys hopping in here with us here for about a half an hour. Sorry, we were originally going to do it for about an hour, but we just had some things that came up. Weren't able to commit to that, but do appreciate everybody for all your support, and hopefully we will be hanging out with you guys. If you're like, oh man, I wish we had more time, well, don't worry. On Thursday, we will have a lot of time together and that whole weekend. So you guys definitely don't want to miss that, but thank you guys so much. Really do appreciate it. If you haven't already, smash that like button, hit subscribe, all that good stuff. But that'll do it for this one, guys. Thanks so much for tuning in. Really do appreciate it. And as always, guys, go Colts.